Welcome, guys. Welcome back. Lots to talk about tonight. We've got plenty with regards to PSR, July the 1st. But of course, first, let's go with... Boom. Look at that. Did a little intro for tonight. Hope everyone's well. It has been a hot weekend. Look at the state of me. Completely red. I'm shutting the window. Nobody needs to hear what I'm about to moan about. We have got plenty to talk about tonight. We need to back this manager. But are Manchester United fans heading for what can only be described as a civil war before the season's even started? Well, plenty to talk about on that. Now, we have all been waiting for this date, July the 1st. It is creeping. And when I say creeping, it is slowly but surely coming towards us. I think there are so many football clubs that are waiting for this date. Now, of course, wouldn't be without saying the other things that have been happening. Now, we've seen Chelsea in the past 48 hours go bang, bang, announce 2 signings. They're done. They are literally cooking this transfer window. Where are Manchester United at with that? Well, we are still waiting for this date to come. I was one of the people saying that Brian was coming, it was done, we're almost there, and we seem to slow down, we seem to get caught between our tails again. However, with this date coming on Tuesday, are things going to ramp up? And not just for Manchester United, I'm talking about all clubs. Lucas, I hope you're well, I hope you've had a smashing weekend. I had to treat Mrs. Robinson yesterday. Bless her. She's had to be without me every night. But luckily enough, Love Island and those bunch of bozos have kept her happy. So there are reports. Mike Keegan come out today and said this. So a lot of clubs already at the limit of this year's profit and sustainability rules. That's PSR for the people who don't know. Hanging fire until Tuesday. So what does this say for clubs, guys? What does this say for where clubs are actually working at? Because we could sit here and say about Manchester United all night. We are a Manchester United channel. However, there are rival fans that do pop in from time to time. So what I want to question here is just exactly where we are at this. Now, before we do, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. We hit 100 followers, subscribers, should I say, on Friday night. The road to 500. In fact, I've got a little banner here for that. Look at that. Boom. Boom, spared no expense. So make sure you are doing that if you are new to the channel, and make sure you are commenting. I'm happy to take as many questions as possible. There are plenty of people here, as I said, that support different clubs, and there's a lot of questions I think need answering. Now, I'm going to bring this up. PSR has been completely and utterly taken over the Premier League for the past 3 years. And this was very interesting. Let me give it that banner a second. This was so interesting when I looked at this. Where are we? Look at this, guys. So this is what most Premier League's clubs should be saved from PSR trouble this month and what money they've got available. There is some damning ones there. There is some absolute damning ones there. Chelsea, top there, 300 million M's there. Welcome, Jamie. Welcome, Jamie. This already has shown what Chelsea are doing. So many clubs have been sort of on the back burner, and you'll see some of them there. You'll see, who have we got? We've got Newcastle United. We've got Nottingham Forest, who you might see someone you recognise very, very shortly. In fact, you might see a couple very shortly. You've got Aston Villa as well. This is not a surprise, guys and girls. This is not a surprise. Let me just say hello to a couple of people. Hello to GameScope. Hello, Ginny-Esther, and hello, Jamie. This is not a surprise, guys, nor should it be. Nor should it be. Now, there are a couple of people in the waiting room here. First guests on my show, by the way. I've been guests on plenty of theirs. It's only right that I return the favour, and I think they'll have something to say about the dreaded PSR. Here we go. Look who is here. Look who is here. What better two people to have on my stream? What two better people? How are we, gents?
Firstly, congrats, 100, man. Big up.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
That's the hardest 100, man. It's done. Well done.
They say the first year in marriage is the hardest, but I think this has definitely been harder.
Yeah, try the 18th or whatever I'm up to, man.
How are we both? We good?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Do you know what? Only for you, Dan, have I left the other room that had aircon to come into here, into the hot box, man.
Do you know something? I went and got my hair cut today, and the poor bloke who was doing my hair, he was like literally just wiping the sweat off me. I was sat there going, I'm so sorry about this, pal. I'm so sorry about this, pal.
Hey, it's his fault. He should have aircon, man. He should treat his clients better.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind 48 hours, I think, for the likes of Chelsea, and we're all still sat here going, We're like that. We're like that date, aren't we, at the prom that watches everybody else get picked and taken to the dance floor, and we're just sat there going, "When's it going to be us? When are we going to be next?" It's horrendous. Pete, you must be fuming, by the way, because that's another one of your players that you were looking at, Pedro.
It's a weird one, you know. Like the fan base is quite split on it. There's a lot of Newcastle fans who are actually like bullet dodged. Thank God for that, because they didn't want him. Like, whereas I saw the value in what we needed him for. Like, if you're looking at our current 4-3-3 setup, he actually doesn't fit into it. But Eddie Howe was very specific that he wanted João Pedro because he's looking to change and evolve the style of play, the tactical setup next season, and he would have fit into that. Whether that changes our targets elsewhere, and this is what we're just having a conversation about on Loaded Mag tonight on our transfer show, we were saying that this could maybe change the tact of where we go for a right winger, for example, or the alternative striker. Do we go for, someone that was versatile like João Pedro, or do we go for very specifics in those positions? Because he could do pretty much all three: the number 10, the striker role, and play out wide. So, look, it's a sort of a mixed emotion. It's a bit like like one of them. What's his name? The ex-England manager, where you kind of see the video. No, it's
Roy.
Yeah, Roy
with the head drop.
You see the video where he's like in the dugout and he's like.
I would have likened it to Steve McLaren at Newcastle, mate. That video of him going, "Come on," and then just completely tied. I agree. I mean, I've got to say hello to some OGs here, guys. Got to say hello to some OGs. So we've got Jamie in the house. Hope you're well, Jamie.
You have OGs, bro. You're like a day old.
Because, mate, I never forget. I'm like my wife, mate. I never forget. I'll tell you something about that off air in a bit, mate. I haven't cheated. Just put that in there. Hello to the Game Scoop. Ginny Esther, hope you're well. Andy, hope you are well. Lucas, always here and very, very happy to see the guests. Moxie Shun, evening and welcome. Yes, guys, welcome to the Brian Brigade. Another one that you were linked with, Pete. And of course, I think we've got. Oh, there we go. And also, we got evening down. Yeah, welcoming you guys, welcoming you, special guys.
I've just realised this is fate. This is fate. Your first two guests. If we go back to a few Fridays ago, was this not the winning team?
This was the winning team. Football's 12th man end of season due for Shuttleboard. Of course, we won't go into the
we won't go into the names and everything.
You commented on my bloody chat, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to be cancelled before I've even fucking started this.
we were class that night, though.
There was some antics.
It was all about the post-match managerial conferences. But anyway,
this is why I'm no longer a Sunday League manager. Big up, Shane. Hope you're well, mate. Hope you're well. So yes, before I go into, I'll come to you in a second, Jamie. I can see your comment. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. PSR then, guys, just how much has this limited what we're doing this season? Or is it just a case of our teams have been a little slower to the table, unlike the Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, and now the Chelseas?
Shall I be honest with you guys? I don't think PSR is a problem necessarily. I think it's used as an excuse by certain clubs to hide behind.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's too many loopholes. Now, if we were having this conversation 18 months ago, then yeah, we can say, Newcastle was, were tight on PSR because of this. Forest were tight and they got points deducted on it. But you've seen Chelsea sell hotels, Chelsea sell their women's club. You've seen Forest and Newcastle doing a little PSR party last season. The loopholes are there, and they voted to keep the loopholes in. They could have closed them, but they need them as their parachute in case of the crash landing. So I don't think clubs are in danger of PSR. Look at Villa. Villa are the only ones who are meant to be in danger of PSR. They haven't sold anyone because you're probably going to see in the next day or two them announce selling their women's team. I just think it's used as a PR excuse from certain clubs towards their fan base to say, well, PSR is a bit tight. We do want players in, but we can't because of PSR. So I think the narrative is changing slightly just because of all the loopholes that are left. Now, having said that, if PSR wasn't there, I would expect the likes of Newcastle, Forest, Villa to be spending big right now because we have owners with, I mean, Newcastle. Man, I kind of just want to see it, man. I would love just to see what the team Newcastle would build if they just took the shackles off and said, there you go, your oil money, spend as much as you want, and just see what would happen.
Being honest, Wolfie, if we had the capacity to do what we want to do, we'd have been in a title race this season. And we'd probably maybe, I even go as far as saying, lads, we'd have probably already won the title by now. 4 years.
You could have put, you would have put Galacticos squads together
with the money that is available. I think we'd have done the lot. And I have to say, it's a really important point because there are some sections of Newcastle fans that are kind of question marking PIF and saying, the PIF, were they really interested in Newcastle United? Do they really want Newcastle United when they're invested in Saudi and all the rest of it? The reality is they can't invest in Newcastle United the way they want to because PSR doesn't allow it to. Is that we have had rapid growth every single year since they've taken over, like rapid growth. Nobody has had as big a growth as a club as we have in terms of revenue, in terms of sponsorships, and that was because the baseline, the floor was so low that we've been able to, like we are now in terms of revenue and earning money, the next one out of that big six, and we've done that in 4 years, but that still doesn't allow Saudis in PIF to do what they want to do, because what they want to do is what Man City are doing. What they want to do is what Chelsea are doing, and that's going to take time to get there. But mark my words, when Newcastle are gaining revenue alongside any of those top six, Newcastle United will do what everyone expected us to do when we first got taken over. They will eventually do it.
And let's not forget, Pete, they put in that special rule because of Newcastle, didn't they? The third-party transactions. Weird how that came out like 3 days after the announcement, whatever it was, of the takeover. And that's your lot, Dan. Your big six lot trying to gatekeep.
We're not big six. Come on, now. We're big six.
In name.
The financial six.
No, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because we saw Jim Radcliffe coming out about 3 or 4 months ago saying by the end of the year, we could have run out of money. And then, 2 months later, 60 million on Cunha, another 55 being dropped potentially on Mbumo. So I don't know, man. I just think there's a lot of PR that goes around all this PSR stuff, all this financial stuff. This is the richest league in the world, man. If they're not making the money, then where else are you going to make it?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I mean you're linked with a player, Wolfie, that we're looking at. Is it Rios? And
Rios.
I'm hearing ridiculous money that's being banded around this guy. Absolutely ridiculous money. Do you look at United if we're linked with that same player and think, well, that's it? Or are you thinking, well, actually, the way our club has been, if we match them over the past 2 seasons, we're not going to be concerned about Manchester United at all. Surely our project's better.
Yeah, there's a lot. Under normal circumstances, you'd be like, oh, United are linked, game over. Under normal footballing circumstances. But there's too many names at the moment. Like I would say last summer, Forest, West Ham, and Newcastle would be linked to very similar names. This summer, it feels like Forest, Spurs, and Man U are all being linked with the same players. Obviously, Spurs and Man U have the name, and Forest have finished where they have finished. So I think a lot of the times, and I still think this is the case when it comes to United, is that a lot of agents use the United name to try and bump up a price. So United may not be interested, I would say, in about 60% of the players that get linked to them. A lot of these, for me, will be agents who are just trying to bump up fear in other teams that are interested in what have you, move fast, or United are going to come in and get them. And we've seen that historically with players and United. I still think United do have that pull. I think the name lasts, if you carry on like this, you probably got 4 or 5 years of pull with the name. After that, you're moving into a generation who the best they would have seen is Erasmus Højlund or the Solskjaer in charge or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I still think you have that generation of footballers for the next 5 years if you carry on the trajectory you've been on. So there is some pull, as much as I hate to say it, with United. But in terms of players being linked, I just think I would hate to do United YouTubing, mate. I feel for you, because cutting through the crap and finding the legit ones, it must be an absolute nightmare.
I mean, Moxie kind of goes with regards to the FFP. Sorry, right. Let's get into brass tacks. Chelsea are the biggest swindlers using it. Others need to start using loopholes. Is it a case of they are, or are they just that smart? I mean, look, if we could do what they were doing, I'd be over the moon if we had 300 million to spend. It almost feels sometimes to me, I moan about it. We've all moaned about it, but if we could do it, we would. I mean, they started with the player contracts, then that kind of got squashed a little bit. Are they swindlers or are they just that smart?
Both.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think Chelsea are very, very good at what they do. Like I've said it for years now. Like even before the hotels and all the rest of it, the women's team, Chelsea were one of the best spenders around. Like I go back all the way back to, for example, when you boys bought Juan Mata from Chelsea under David Moyes. Like, and they managed to get a crazy amount of money out of him from you guys, and they've been selling well since then, and they've continued to do so. They just hoard players. They buy. I even like. It's weird. Like I even feel like Chelsea don't even really have a scouting department. They just look at who else is interested in them around them. They look at like Man United's and Man City's and Liverpool's and even like teams like ours, and they look at who's interested. And it's just like, oh yeah, we'll sign him because they're interested in him, and they just wait. Like the amount of times that Chelsea just wait for a team to bid, know what the figure is, and go, we can afford that, boom, and just pay it outright. And it's like they've had no links for the player. Like João Pedro is a classic example of that. Weren't nowhere near linked with João Pedro until Newcastle United had put their bid in. Once they put their bid in, it was like all of a sudden Chelsea are now interested in the player. All of a sudden, Chelsea have now bid for the player. Now the player wants to go to Chelsea, probably because he's been offered an extra $100,000 a week on top of what he was being offered with the previous club. And it's just like,
don't say that, Pete. Why couldn't they pay the extra $100,000 a week for fucking Sancho? That's all I'm going to say about that.
And this is what we're saying. This is where they're smart as well, because they will pick and choose who they want, and it's very clear that Jadon Sancho is not the guy to be signing right now. But you wait, Newcastle United will be like, here we go, Jadon Sancho to Newcastle. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's one of those things. Like they are very, very smart with it. And you say about loopholes, Wolfie, like you shouldn't have to be going through loopholes to kind of like keep yourself ticking over. Not for a team like Chelsea that have won titles, won Premier Leagues, won Champions Leagues, and been at the top for so long. They shouldn't have to be using loopholes to keep themselves going. That just shows how bad they've been recently, because they've had to use loopholes to keep themselves going. They should have been done under PSR. You should be more annoyed than anybody else, Wolfie, because you've been done by PSR, right? And they've been swindling themselves and getting away with it for so long. You should be annoyed at that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, I think the whole hotels things it's the Premier League that's more at fault for me than Chelsea, but I won't say that to Chelsea fans, obviously. Where I will give them their credit, them and Man City, is they sell their academy players very well. And they make a lot of money. I mean, I still can't get over you buying Mason Mount for 65 million with 1 year left on his contract.
I can't. It's United, mate.
It's just daylight robbery, you know what I'm saying? And like, they've done well with the academy players. And I think what Peter's saying there, they're just hoarding players. Eventually, you buy enough shit, something's going to stick. And it does work. And I think because I think Man City and Chelsea's academies have this reputation that anything leaving there is almost minimum of 25-30 mil, like instantly, because it's left there. That's all pure profit on PSR. But they still have spent 1.6 billion and growing now this summer. So it's crazy the amount they've spent, and they're just finding these loopholes. Premier League didn't shut them. The clubs voted not to shut those loopholes. It's a mess, mate. I just say open the taps and let everyone spend. My idea is still simple. At the start of the season, every owner puts down a bond to cover off whatever they want to spend. Let's say Pete's boys want to spend 500 million. They just put a security bond down. Here's the 500 million, because PSR is meant to protect clubs from going broke. So if the Newcastle owners decide, right, we're just going to do a runner, well, that bond's there to protect Newcastle. The 500 million is there to pay it off. Do it that way. Announce what you want to pay, have it locked in, and go crazy.
I agree. I think, look, I mean, we could. This is the football fan, isn't it? We seem to always have the best ideas, and we seem to know exactly what should be done in a competition, in a league. But the powers that be always seem to bugger it up. Andy makes a good point here. Do you think teams like United, who are in so much debt, should be allowed to buy players? Because there's no hiding from the fact Manchester United still owe a ridiculous amount of money. This hasn't just happened over the last 2 years. This has been ever since the Glazers have been in charge. It kind of makes a mockery of the rules. You kind of expect any other club to be made to pay this back. But yet again, season in, season out, the Glazers take money from the club and we still have this debt. So what are your thoughts on that comment from Andy there?
I think it's a great point. I think it's a great, genuine point. But even before this PSR situation, even Man United fans were asking the question about this debt, because you had this when they bought the club. And it's only got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, let's be honest, how long have they been owning your club? Is it been 20 years or so?
14, 15 years now, isn't it?
So you think about how long they've been owning your club. That debt should have been wiped years ago. The fact that they're adding to it is crazy, and it just goes to show that, like, you've been able to, the players that you've signed, whether they've been successful or not, you've spent a lot of money on players over the years, and you've still been able to do it even with that debt hanging over you. Like, if it wasn't there, what would be your capabilities? With Qatar that was planning on buying you and they were willing to buy out the debt, just think about where your club would have been at that point. But yeah, I think if you're an opposition fan and you look at Man United with that level of debt and they're still being able to spend that money, because look, in my opinion, you're gonna end up going for that £70 million mark to get Brian Mbeumo into your club. I think you've backed yourself into a corner. I think you've created the problem for yourself. But I think you will get the player, and you will spend a lot of money. I remember we having on 12 Man this conversation, Dan, and about you spending big this summer, and you were going, "No, we're not going to spend a lot of money. We haven't got money there." And I knew it was going to be the case. You were always going to spend money, and the reason being, Dan, is because you have to. You have to spend money. Man United, as Wolfie said quite earlier, and it was a really good point, Man United cannot afford to be out of the Champions League for any longer than a year or two. Like, after that, you are going to get players that are not going to come to Man United. Yeah. You're not always going to have this where Brian Mbeumo denies every other team because he wants only Man United. You're going to get to a point where teams and players are not going to come to teams like Man United.
It reverts back to us paying the money again, then, doesn't it? Yeah. And big to pay the wages to bring them in. I think you make a great point there. We've kind of hit a sweet spot this summer, United, in the sense of having a Cunha want to come to United, having a Brian want to come to United. That pull, as Wolfie said, how long that continues is absolutely right. There's a couple of comments here. Let's make sure I'm not missing these out. Catherine says, I'll keep saying this, we are light years away from Liverpool, City and Arsenal and Chelsea. Completely agree. Couldn't agree more with that. We've got Lisa saying, smash the likes up, everyone. Big up, Lisa, by the way. It's great to see you here. Ginny Esther says, can't blame João Pedro for turning us down. We turned him down 3 years ago for Isaac. We even got a here we go from Fabrizio. I didn't even know that, Pete.
Yeah,
didn't even know that, mate.
So that was it. And this is the point that I made on Loaded tonight, is that, there's been a lot of Newcastle fans that are going, oh, we've lost our first targets. Our first choice targets have gone. Oh, everything's falling apart. This is an awful summer. I'm going, hold on a second. There's two players that I know of, and there's probably more, but two players as an example. We had João Pedro. It was a done deal. We got here we go. We even did a reaction show to the fact that we were signing João Pedro. We had a Watford channel, fantastic channel they are. That came on to give us kind of a handover of João Pedro and gave us the lowdown of his ability. And then everything just went quiet. And then 2 days later, we ended up signing Isaac, and it was because Callum Wilson got injured. He got a hamstring injury that was out for about 7 weeks. And so the club didn't feel that João Pedro could be the main man at that point. He was going to supplement Wilson. So we needed a main man. And we ended up going and spending 60-odd million on Isaac. And it's not a bad backup. It's not a bad second choice, is it? Alexander Isak. We also did the same in our first window with we wanted two centre-backs. We wanted Sven Botman and we waited till the summer to eventually get him. And we wanted Diego Carlos, who eventually went to Villa in the summer.
Dodged a
And
bullet
we
there,
wanted him as our first choice. Our backup, Dan Burn. Nobody would have signed him. He's been an absolute monster for us since he signed for the club. So it's those things. It's not the worst thing in the world when this happens. And to go to the point that Genie Esther made, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of a I'm getting you back for what you did to me, because he was celebrating that he'd signed for Newcastle United and then we pulled the rug underneath him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing the same to us, and fair play to him.
Yeah,
There's a bit of copium coming from the Geordie fan base, though, Pete, for being honest.
How?
Alanga rejected. Pedro rejected. Alanga rejected. Pedro rejected. Trafford rejected. You keep telling me, don't worry, man, it's all good, it's all good, it's all good.
And Bremo, I give you
Bremo
that.
rejected.
Pete, it's Brian on this channel, mate. Brian Brigade won't have that. It's Brian.
Brian said he only wanted Man United. Fair enough. João Pedro, he wants to live in London. Fair enough. Alanga, I've been saying that conversation. He is twerking for Newcastle United, and you know he is. On his socials, he is in all of the Newcastle United players whenever he can. Even Tino last night, Elliot Anderson, ex-Newcastle United. He's still in talking to the lads. He loves Newcastle. He
spoke to an ex-Newcastle player who's his current teammate, man. Come on, bro. That's okay. You picked out the one player that I've mentioned, but what about Tino Livramento? What about Anthony Gordon? What about William Masula that you didn't even know up until about 2 weeks ago? What about Alexander Isak? Holidays together, man.
He is constantly in the DMs and the messages of our players. Even putting pictures out of people wearing the Newcastle top that he's with, to emphasize the point. Don't tell me that if we agreed a fee with Forest, right, that he wouldn't jump at the chance of coming to Newcastle United.
No, I don't think he would.
Are you being serious? You're telling me that if we agreed a fee with Forest, he'd go,
I'll be honest with you, I don't think we get to find that answer out, because I don't think you'll pay what Forest want for him.
Yeah, good. I don't want us to. You know that. I've already told you that before. I don't want us to.
If you do...
Big shout out to Game Scoop as well. Just saying, either way, here we go for Brian. Monday, Tuesday, the latest, and it's hopefully going to get real the following weeks with new signings, positive energy. Also, big shout out to Zam here as well. New person on the show. Make sure you are subscribing and liking on that video, Sam. Plenty to be talking about. And of course, it wouldn't be a live stream without a certain somebody popping up there. Hope you're well, Sophie. Thanks for joining. I've got here. This is one of my boys. This is Moxie Pete. He says, sorry, but Newcastle struggle to ever be a real top tier club in England, never mind Europe, because they're simply not a draw outside of the Northeast, really. Always going to be 6 or 7 teams behind. And what I want to follow up with that before you come back with that is this summer, as we do, you know, you're now looking to take that next step to be Champions League season in, season out. Same as United are trying to get back in bloody Europe, right? I just worry, and again, from your part, you'll probably have a retort to this. Are the owners backing the fact that Eddie will somehow get them to where they need to be if these problems arise? Or are you confident now, regardless of being what he said here with a real top-tier club, you will be able to attract the players and you will be able to progress?
Yeah, you got to remember, like some of these clubs that you're referring to, you know, Man United, you know, you got like Liverpool and Arsenal. They're like heritage clubs that have been doing it for decades now. They've not just built their club in 5-10 years. They've built themselves as a big monster club over 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's a long time. Newcastle United have only been owned by these owners for 4 years. So if you're, and this is the thing, like I said this to Pops, because there's this emphasis on, because we've got the richest owners in the world, which we have, we can't spend it all, but we have, like that we're all of a sudden just going to be a massive team in like 2 or 3, 4 years. Like it's not the reality. It's not going to happen like that. But what I will say is that if Eddie Howe, and I think there is an emphasis on Eddie Howe, continuing to work miracles. If Eddie Howe continues to get us playing Champions League football and putting us in that mix every single year, players will want to come to Newcastle United, because they'll know that they're going to be playing for a team that's guaranteed Champions League football. Like they go to Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea to a point because they're guaranteed Champions League football. Man United as well up until the last couple of years. But like they go to those teams because they know that at some point in the next year or two, they'll be playing Champions League football. They need to know that Newcastle are going to do the same. They need to know that Newcastle are not just a one-hit wonder with Champions League. And the fact that we've put Champions League on the table 2 years out of the 3 will give other players confidence that actually, yeah, this team's going in the right direction. So this summer is important for us because we need to add players that are going to be strong enough to be able to hit the ground running with Champions League. But we're not going to get every single player. There are going to be players that are going to want to go and play elsewhere, locality-wise, money-wise. But we will get players that will be ready to fight Champions League. Like I'm not concerned on that.
Yeah, I think as much as I don't like to admit it, there's still a tiering system in world football. You got Real and Barca, probably still got the most pull. Then you've got your Liverpools, your Man U's, your Arsenals, Man Cities, etc. And it's just going to be hard to break the mindset of players coming from abroad coming into here to go up to a Newcastle, even to go to a Midlands, to a Forest or what have you. Even though we got Hooters, like why wouldn't you want to come? But there's still, whether we like it or not, there's still a London pull. There, most foreign players who have never been to England will know what London is. Will they know what Sunderland is, or an Ipswich or whatever? London is still London. So even within the smaller London clubs, they get a slight extra pull, if you like, just from being within London, or Fulham or whatever. Have you say it is a problem of mindset. It is gonna take more years of establishment, regular Champions League football. It's facts though, Soph. It's facts.
Have you got a Hooters, Pete, up Newcastle? Didn't know that. Oh, hang on, and Lisa's. I love the fact that out of all the chat,
do they? Oh, okay.
Two females that come and go. Hang on a second, we got a Hooters.
Yeah, exactly.
One in Newcastle, one in Forest, one in Nottingham.
Yeah.
Memories.
No, not that I've ever been into it, but anyway. But yeah, the whole other story. That's an off-stream story. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so there is still this pull thing, right? But there is degrading of pull for, if you look at it, like as I said, Man U, a couple more years in the doldrums, you lose the pull. Spurs, even with London, even with Champions League, they're struggling for pull because managers also come into it. What have I set these lot off on? One word.
I have to change the channel bio to Hooters, I think.
Yeah. Because I think one other thing that needs to be taken in consideration is manager pull.
Yeah.
You're looking at Spurs now with Champions League football, with the money they have, with London, and with Thomas the Frank Engine in charge. He can't even pull some of his old players, and Brumo's going to choose you over Spurs. Are they going to get Vissa? That's an off-putting comment. I'm not. So yeah, there is issues with football, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've got a few questions, but what I want to do, I do want to chat. Don't worry, I haven't forgot. There's something I wanted to get your two's opinion on, right? So what I've done here is I've pulled the first team that I think Manchester United will see come the first training session on the 7th of July. So we will see some glaring, obvious mistakes here, I think, in where Manchester United are really struggling. But this is the first team that I've got here. So there is a lot of defenders there. At the end, we've got Diego Leon, who comes in. In the midfield, we've got Mount, Fernandes, Casemiro, Ugarte, Mainu, Collier, and, of course, Kone, who I think has got big things ahead of him. Then you look into the attackers side of it. Now, Ahmad, we know, is going to be, I think, a wing-back. We know that there's certain question marks on Højlund, on Xerxes. Brian is there. I may have jumped the gun. I don't care. I've been speaking about him for too long. We go from that. Where do you feel like, looking at that squad, Manchester United, if nothing else is done in this window with that squad, where do you see Manchester United finishing this season coming?
Where do I want, or where do I think?
Let's go with think. I know exactly where you want. You want us in relegation.
Yeah, bottom. I do look at that squad and think if that's what starts next season, it's missing a goalkeeper, it's missing a 9, unless you're gonna convert Mbeumo into a 9 and then play Xerxes in the 10 with Cunha or one of those combos. I think you're missing a CDM, if I'm honest with you. Ugate's started okay and then faded out for me in the season. Mainu, I don't think is a 6. I feel that the formation he plays a 3-4-2-1. Playing 2 there, the 2 that he tends to go with are too weak. Like you end up with a Casemiro and then a Bruno. I don't think even a Bruno, I think, got a harsh treatment from the United fans last season and was your best player. I still don't know exactly where his right position is within that formation, even though he's pulled out goals and things for you. And if you're going with a Ugarte and a Bruno in there or a Casemiro and a Bruno, I think that's too lightweight. So I think you need an out-and-out 6 who can control that midfield and put a job there. So I still think you're a couple of players shy. And then I think, what's he going to do with the wing-back situation? Because is he going to go and put Ahmed again as the right wing-back? Because now he's filled the slots further up with an Mbeumo, with a Cunha, etc. Is that defensively going to cover you on those wide areas? So I still don't see the balance in that United team. Do I see you being as bad as you were this season? I hope so, but I don't think so. So I think the thing that you have in your favor in a weird way is 1 game a week. At least there, you're not, in a way that should help you, but you still need to fill those holes in, Dan. Otherwise, I don't think that squad is deep enough.
Funnily enough, I always keep notes, always make notes before it. And I've said since we had the Brian, is he coming? Is he not coming? Regardless of that, I still wanted 3 signings because you remember on 12th man, guys, I have said for such a long time that Manchester United, we can't go out and get 10 players. It's just not possible. So what I saw happening was the 5 and then the youth coming through. And there is some youth players in that first team training for the first there. So what about you, Pete? What are you saying with regards to the squad there? I'll bring it back up for you just quickly. So as you see there, midfield, I agree with Wolfie, is very, very light. Defence, I don't think United touched defence this season, by the way. I think that's a project for another season. I just genuinely agree with Wolfie there, with there being a number 9 needed, and we need that 6, which for me, I still believe Douglas Luiz is the one we should be going out and absolutely spending 30 million on. Premier League proven, which is what we seem to be looking at this window. We seem to be going for that. I think it's a snip. But what about you, Pete?
Yeah, looking at that squad, I think it's probably around mid-table, maybe just above. You know, I look at it maybe like a Brentford or a Fulham, where they kind of finished the season. I look at Man United possibly finishing around there. You've made some improvements in that sort of attacking midfield position, but you already had kind of Bruno there doing that job anyway. There's no point having attacking midfield position if you've got no one to supply him to. And if you haven't got a striker that's good enough to be able to supply, I don't think it's going to work. It's interesting because you've got Xerxes, who also plays in that sort of attacking midfield role. So you've got Mason Mount that does the same. You've almost packed out that area. You've got loads of options there, and yet you've not got the striker or 2. I think you probably need more than 1 to be able to facilitate any sort of positivity in terms of goals. Your midfield's weak, as Wolfie said. I put it in there. But I'm not convinced on that defense either. I know you got a lot of defenders there, but a lot of them are not good, in my opinion. But just put that, if you can, just put it up again. Like you look at those defenders. For me, okay, you don't. If I'm Man United, I don't want to be going into that season relying on Heaven, Aiden Heaven. I'm just not. He's a young player that needs to be kind of sort of drip fed into the team, not being thrusted in. You've got Amas, who's a young player. For me, he shouldn't be nowhere near the first team. Luke Shaw, for me, not good enough. Diego Dalot has moments, but has mistakes in him as well. Lenny Yoro will come good. I do like him. Dorgu, I think I've seen bits from him, but I'm not convinced he's going to come in and be the guy next season. Martinez, the guy can't stay fit. I think his height's a massive issue for you in that defense. Harry Maguire is Harry Maguire. will give you moments in attacking areas, but will give you mistakes in defensive areas. De Ligt, I think, has been a massive letdown for you guys, in my opinion. And Missouri, I think, is a good player. I think he's one that you've done well in. So I'm looking at that defense. You've got a lot of options, but actually, for me, just my own personal opinion, not a lot of good options as well. And then Wolfie's talked about the goalkeeper situation, which I think should be your priority. Doing everything you can to get an on out and get a better goalkeeper in. That should be the priority. You've got to build the spine of the team, and the spine of the team starts with the goalkeeper.
Yeah. I think this has been the problem though. I said this a couple of weeks ago when I was on TikTok. I just wonder how many points Manchester United lost out on last season for not having that number 9 that can put the ball in the back of the net and the goalkeeper doing what he's doing now. It's an interesting fact about the number 9 because I did these before, and you mentioned Xerxes, and obviously we've got Rasmus now. Xerxes is very, he can play in the 10. He does drop, and he himself says he's not an out-and-out number 9. But these are the stats for Xerxes here. So you've got 40 games he played as a centre forward, 5 goals, which I think is absolutely abysmal as a return. I don't think it was a great first season for him at all. But then you've also got Rasmus. I mean, this is abysmal from Rasmus. This is absolutely abysmal. And I've heard people on this channel from my community come out and say, well, with the creativity behind him, he could do better. But from both of them, Manchester, I mean, I hear people twerking for Xerxes. They're saying, oh, well, Xerxes up top with Brian and Cunha, he's going to ball. I can't see it. There is an absolute need for an out-and-out number 9 there. You say about the defence, Pete, and I agree. The defence wasn't great, but I just feel like for the process now where Manchester United are looking at, I hate using that word because Arsenal fans are synonymous with the word process, but I think this season we have to do it gradually. We can't afford to do it all in one hit.
Yeah, I think what Pete's saying about the defense, I half agree with it. If your defense is fit, I think the 3 centre backs are right. Euro's fine. I disagree with Pete a bit. I don't think De Ligt was that shit. I think he was okay. And then the third one.
Did you just call him De Ligt?
Yeah.
So you're saying
Jamie's fuming for that. I don't think he was that bad. I don't think he was that bad. I think he's part of a team that was
my problem with your defense has been your fullbacks. I think my worry, if I was a United fan, is Dorgu was Amorim's choice. He's the one who brought him in January, and he looked like an absolute scrub after 2 games. And that would worry me because is he now your number 1 choice? Obviously, Luke Shaw is done. So I think the centre backs as a starting pairing are fine. I don't think the depth is good enough in there. I just really hope you crash and burn this season, bro. Like we just need like a Leeds to survive or something. Maybe, who knows? But I hear what you're saying on Rasmus. Our centre back scored more Milenkovic scored more goals in the Premier League than Rasmus did. That's how bad Rasmus is. And I don't care if you put Zidane, Maradona, and Ronaldinho behind him. He ain't getting double digits, man. That guy is a scrub. He just backs into defenders. That's all I ever see him do. And he'd be better off in the WWE. He really would. So I don't know.
I think it's a great point there. I completely agree. Pete, I know you've got to make a move in a second. So again, thank you for coming on the show tonight. Just a couple of things before I let you go. Comments made before. So Andy said, "Is Gordon staying at Newcastle?"
No guarantees there. He's one of them that I think could well be sold if someone comes in. Now, for what Newcastle want, I don't think they'll come in, but I know Arsenal are quite interested in him, even more so than Liverpool now. I think if there was a bid that was reasonable enough came in, I think Newcastle would sell, in my opinion.
Interesting.
But I don't think any team will come in with the type of money that they would need to be able to get him out of Newcastle. So I think he'll stay. He needs to have a good season. I don't think he did well last season. He didn't have a good season for us, but I think he needs to hit the ground running next season for sure.
And then followed up by a comment from Lucas saying, Sunderland looking good in terms of signings. Are you scared, Pete? They have been making some decent signings, but I mean, the level. I think the gap between you and Sunderland is far too big for that.
You got to look at the ceiling. They had a championship squad that only just scraped through to get Premier League, and then their only decent midfielder they sold off to Borussia Dortmund. So they've had to properly invest in their team. They've made a couple of decent signings, but the floor in which they're starting from is a lot lower than many other teams now. For me, I still expect them to be in a relegation battle, but equally, I still expect them to turn up in the Time Weird derby. So I'm looking forward to it. Cannot wait. 13th of December and the 21st of March. Bring it on.
Fantastic. Pete, before you go, mate, let people know where they can find you and what you got coming up, buddy.
Of course, Loading Mag, NUFC. It's the summer, so we have fully loaded transfer shows all over the shop. So yeah, we could be back on tomorrow, could be back on Tuesday. Depending on when news breaks, we will be back. We did a show tonight, so if anyone wants to check it out on Pedro, Trafford, and various other discussions, go and visit Loading Mag, NUFC. But most importantly, give this channel a like, give it a subscribe. Dan United, you know where it is. Proper Man United fan, and it will give you honest opinions on all things football. So make sure you do that first.
I knew it was a good idea getting this haircut tonight, Pete. You've been lovely to me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, appreciate it. Thank you. Of course you are. Of course you are. We won't go back to the time where you absolutely rinsed me about Casemiro and Varane after a couple of whiskies. We'll save that for another time. But
that was warranted though.
I didn't even bloody say anything. I hadn't said a bloody word, and you flew at me. Hey, Pete, you can answer a question for people in this chat because this was asked a couple of nights ago. Who's the better drinker? Me or you? Well, yeah, me or you. Who can drink the most?
Why are you asking me that question when you know the answer already? You will absolutely wipe the floor with everyone I know. You are an absolute machine, but a great guy.
Well, as a third party, I could probably answer it better. Dan's louder at drinking than you. Pete's like the silent assassin drinker, you know? It's like, Dan, you don't know if he's had one or he's had 20. It's the same. It's the same output. Yeah. Pete just silently there, knocks him back. Man.
He does. No, Pete, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. And guys, this won't be the last time you see this beautiful man on this show. And again, thank you for all the support, Pete. Much appreciated, mate.
Pleasure, guys. Wolfie, catch you soon. Dan United. I'll be back probably in the live chat at some point in one of many of your shows moving forward.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks so
much.
There we go then. Look at that. What do you mean I sound like I've had 20? I don't know if I've had 1 or 20.
I'm just saying, man, you got that personality, innit? You don't need the drink to bring the personality out. It's the same bubbly Dan, 1 or 20 in, man. Yeah.
You weren't there for the Spice Girls song in the One Club, mate. That was a
I missed it, did I?
Yeah, so moving on slightly to what we sort of discussed earlier on tonight. Where are you at with your transfers at the moment, Wolfie?
I'm impatient, bro. I'm impatient. It's like they've half announced Igor Jesus tonight, and I knew about that about 3 weeks ago. So it's like, all right, cool. Bring me on to my next shiny toy. The one we're being linked with that has got me interested is Mikhail Tadzi. You know, the one from Leon.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys are going to be linked with him now because we are. Have you got any links with him?
I haven't. To be fair, mate, I feel like Manchester United this summer are linked with everyone. I mean, they even linked us. Some of these journalists, I think, haven't got a clue what they're doing half the time. Linked us with Isaac, and I was like, "What on earth?"
Saw that the other day, man.
What on earth? It's ridiculous.
But you know, when you look at Leon with their whole financial issues and stuff, there's 2 players you take from there: him and Fofana. Fofana absolutely cooked you guys in that Old Trafford leg when they were down to 10 men. He looks like a quality player, so I would take those 2. And obviously, John Textor, I don't know what Marinakis has got on him, but he's got something on him. Because apparently the fee for Igor Jesus was meant to be 16 mil. It's now down to 10 mil. I don't know how true it is and what have you. But yeah, that would be a fantastic front 3 of options for Nuno to pick from. So I still think we need a left winger. We need a left back. We definitely need a central midfielder. We're probably going to need another right winger because I think we're selling 2 of our backup wingers off. There's still a lot of business to do, but I think Forest are trying to pull players in that Marinakis can afford, but those players don't necessarily want to play for Forest. Like in January, he was trying to get Gyökeres, man. And I love him for it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, go for it, man. See if you can get him over the line. But, there's a lot. We're linked with Douglas Luiz as well. We've been linked with him for a while because we got Edu in now.
Stunning signing if someone gets him.
Oh, man, he's absolutely rock solid. He's rock solid. It's a bit mixed when you speak to the Villa fan base, though. Some still really love him and take him back tomorrow. Others are like, no, he had a bit of an attitude on him. I don't really care about player attitudes, man. I just care about their performance on the pitch. So just bring them in, man. Bring them in. But I need some shiny new toys, bro.
Oh, mate, we've been waiting. We're still waiting for this. Here we go for Brian.
But I keep hearing you lot need to sell to buy. Is that even true?
It is, and this is the other thing. I mean, you see there's a certain fan on a very, 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 very big platform that gives me whiplash with his ideas of what Manchester United do. One day he says that we need to sell to buy. The other time he'll say, oh, well, it's the owner's fault. This is the players that I put together and the links that we've got. Now, when I put these together, I looked and I thought, that's 4 attackers. I mean, that kind of shows everything that's wrong with United, and that's these boys here. So we got Sancho linked with Juventus, Napoli, and Fenerbahce. We got Garnacho. I can't stand that guy at the moment. My thoughts on him have just completely gone in the mud. Who's linked with Napoli? Not so much Chelsea now. Then they've got Gittins, Atletico Madrid, and Villa. We got Rashford, obviously linked with Barca, AC Milan, and Villa. He wants Barca, no one else. And then you got Anthony. Now, with those 4 players, you would think that's a lot of money Manchester United could potentially make. Not just I'm talking with the transfer fee, but it's the wages that they represent. Because I mean, those 4 players have got to be close to 1.5 million a week. 1 million a week. And I kind of sit there and I go, this is still the problem with the old regime that we're still seeing. In an ideal world, we'd go, right, okay, Rashford, go to Barca, they'll pay 30, 40 million, sound. Anthony, off to Betis, they'll pay the 30 million, sound. The same with Sancho, but we're still seeing problems with these players due to contracts they had from previous. That we're seeing, obviously, Garnacho, I feel like a lot of clubs now are looking at his attitude and going, nah, don't want him. His sole focus is the Premier League, while Chelsea have stopped that now. He can only really go to Napoli for me. So it's a struggle for Manchester United, I think, to get these players off the books. And my question to you is there a world where these 4 players don't actually leave for transfers, they just go on loan?
Yeah, I think this has been a historical problem for you. From the time you had, what was his face, Woodward in there, whoever was dealing with the contracts. These are still, the rotting wood from those deals. And the problem you got is the wages. It's not the transfer fees. If Rashford, how old's Rashford now? He must be like 28.
27, yeah.
Still 27. Like if Rashford was going for a cut price of 30 mil with reasonable size wages, there would be plenty of clubs that would take a punt. But you as that player, are you looking at it thinking, why would I give up 200, 300k a week, whatever I'm on, to take a cut to go down to 80, 90k at a club, where who knows, is that going to be my last contract and what have you? Or do I just milk out this contract and then leave on a free and guarantee myself some bigger wages because there's no transfer fee attached to it and what have you? That's what Sancho's doing. And Sancho is now probably your biggest headache because if you loan him out this year, you may as well rip up his contract because he's done, isn't he, at the end of this next year coming? Facts. So I just think at some point, if these players are such a problem for United, it may be worth looking at a mutual termination on some of these contracts. Take the hit, understand that it was under the old regime and they messed it up and you just got to deal with the problems. But if the problem is as big as it's made out to be, surely the bigger benefit is terminate the contract. No one seems to want to pay for them. Get rid.
Completely agree. And Andy, you're spot on. These 4 players are everything what is wrong with United. I mean, what frustrates me is, I've said this several times. You've got Rashford obviously twerking for Barca and coming out and saying, I'd love to play with Yamal. I'm pretty sure Yamal wouldn't be saying the same back, if I'm honest. He'd probably say, who's Marcus Rashford?
Well, they're signing Nico Williams. So.
That's it. And this is the thing with Rashford. I genuinely feel like he is going to try and force this club into a loan deal with Barca because I much like Sancho, I think any club now that comes and says we want this player, I think these players are going to say we're not going. It's not of interest to us. And then we go back down to what you're saying there. What does that leave Manchester United with? And Moxie has said here, Wolfie is correct. The wage problems with these players are Woodward, Arnold, and Murta days. Money men, not football men. I kind of right. The story is, 150. We get to the 150-year anniversary, and then we start challenging for the title, which I don't think that is. I think he's been very optimistic with that. I personally feel like it is something that we could be pushing towards, like in 3 years' time, being a Champions League club again, having the right players. But these 4 players now, I kind of feel like are just the last hopeful hurdle to get on with this club. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can live with Onana staying for another season if we get rid of these players. It'll hurt, but I can live with that. What I can't live with is players holding us, to ransom. The only one out of all of them, I will say, is Anthony. Anthony seems to want to just go. He said, I want to play football. I want to play in the World Cup. I'll take a pay cut. I'm ready to go. But his problem is Betis can't afford it. So I think our hands are tied.
Yeah, and Anthony doesn't come across as a problem child, if you like, in terms of within this. I know there's the off-field issues, alleged and what have you, but the other 3 are the ones whose egos are just a bit too big for what they are. I just think determination is the better option, because let's just say you loaned one out to, let's say Rashford goes to Villa again. You're still probably going to pay 50 to 70% of his wages to get him off the books. Which you're basically just benefiting Villa with it, making him the player that he could be, a cheap player for them with a loan fee and what have you. So it's still costing what is costing you in the fee you're paying for. You may as well look at terminating those contracts and then making that club have to deal with Rashford and pay the 200-300k or whatever. I get he's got 2 or 3 years left on his deal, so it'll be hefty, but this has been synonymous, man. I remember a couple of years ago, you were trying to get rid of Maguire to West Ham, I think it was, and he wouldn't go because of the wages. And I don't blame these players for it. And I don't think you really can. If someone was saying to me, look, mate, we want you to leave your job currently where you're getting paid 200 grand a year. We're guaranteeing you that 200 grand a year for the next 3 years, but we don't really like you. So can you go and work for that company down the road? Yeah. And they'll pay you 50 grand, mate. You can still live off 50 grand. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you put it in that logic, why would these players go? The problem still is the Murtas and the Woodwards of this world. And you're just going to have to live with it.
Sophie, so Sophie brings this up and it reminds me. So I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, and I kind of, it's still in the back of my mind, and it still worries me a little bit. And I'll ask you this, Wolfie. Is there a world where Marcus Rashford stays at Manchester United and ends up starting up front for him?
Yeah, there is. Because it has to get to the stage where what's he on? What is he on?
He's like 300 grand a week, isn't he?
300 grand a week. So what's that? 600, 1.2 a month. 12, 15 million a year. That's too much money to be ignored. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, in a way, there needs to be, I know it sounds harsh, but maybe someone needs to turn to Amorim and say, look, we're stuck with these players. You're a coach them.
Yeah.
Coach them. See what you can do with them for 2-3 months. If you can't get a tune out of them, then fair enough, you've tried, because everyone else has tried and failed with them. But show us you're a coach. Show us you're earning the money you've got. We're in this predicament. We will still try and sell them. And by the way, if you can get a tune out of them, we can probably get rid of them in January anyway, because then someone's more likely to take a risk. Right now, their stock is at its lowest level because everyone knows you need to get rid of them. Everyone knows they're not really central to your plans next season. And no one can take a risk because the wages are too much on it.
Yeah, I agree. What's this here from It's Me Everest? I think some managers shouldn't jump to higher clubs for money or prestige. Failure would shut off their career trajectory for the worst. People are sort of saying they feel for Amorim. In fact, Andy says here, if they can't get rid of the players, where does that leave Amorim in? Do you know something? I kind of agree slightly with what you're saying there, Wolfie. I mean, he should be able to get a tune out of the likes of Garnacho. He should be able to get a tune. There are people that still say to this day now that Sancho would fit the formation he plays to a T in that 10 role. Rashford, I feel like the door's shut on that one because they had that public fallout, didn't they? And
Yeah.
Anthony is Anthony, isn't he? But it's frustrating. I mean, we'll close the show in a sec. For me, I kind of feel like what you said. If we can't get rid of these players and we're that bothered about where it leaves us, just mutually terminate the contract. They want to leave. They obviously want some change in their back pocket from it. Let them go, because the more this rolls on, I feel the more this is going to affect Manchester United moving forward. We talk about this new Manchester United. Well, at the moment, we're still getting tripped up from behind for the people that are still here. If we can do that, absolutely fine. In an ideal world, even if we sell 2 out of the 4 of them here, I think we can perhaps bring some players in that change the way we play. But I just feel like at the moment, get July the 1st out of the way. Hopefully, we'll get more transfers in. Hopefully, the rumour mill will be rife again. Hopefully, the likes of Sancho will go, do you know what? Actually, I want to play football, because we've not mentioned the World Cup is next year.
Yeah.
Players like Sancho, who seem to back themselves, Rashford, Anthony, they're absolutely going to want to play in that competition.
Garnacho as well, yeah.
And Garnacho as well. So it is a stress. What's Ginny saying here? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, if you had to put them in an order, the keyest 2 you need to sell are Garnacho and Rashford, because they've come through your academy, I believe. Is Garnacho through the academy as well?
Well, technically, yeah. We got him for like 800.
It came, yeah, quite early on, didn't he? So those are the most profitable for you when it comes to PSR and everything like that. The other 2, Sancho, you can almost just chuck him in with the kids if he goes nowhere. Do you know, he's done at the end of the season. Just chuck him in with the kids or whatever. And then that leaves you Anthony. I don't think Anthony's going to be a massive problem. No. The problem is, if you're relying on these 4 to build your war chest to make your summer spending viable, that's now where you have an issue. That's the key thing here.
Let me ask you a question on that. Do you think the players know how much Manchester United need to sell them, and they're digging their heels to be that problem?
I don't think so. Like, I'd look at Rashford and I think he's a United fan. If this was me in that situation with Forest, would I want to be that asshole towards the club that I supported? Unless he feels like unless he feels betrayed by not just the club but the fan base as well, thinking back, oh, when I won you this, when I did this for you, and what have you, and this is how you're treating me. Maybe, but I just think the players are always going to do what they think is best for them. I don't think it's the case of digging the heels in. I think if Rashford got an offer that wasn't, say, Barca, but was like Bayern, for example, he'd go. He'd be stupid not to.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think there'll be a little bit of it, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want that reputation surrounding him in the world of football and burning all the other bridges.
Yeah, fair. Georgie says Amorim will just get pissed off and walk away. Don't blame him. I disagree with this, Georgie. This whole player, manager saying I've had enough. They won't, because they've got a massive contract that pays them a lot of money, and they will get a lot of money if they are sacked. I don't think it works out. And Pete's in the show and says, didn't they kick Rashford out of the club though? They kind of did. I just kind of feel like an ideal situation for the board is they say, just do it again with Rashford, just see what we can do. And also Lucas says, who is signing on Nacho? Well, no Premier League club. I firmly believe that. I genuinely believe his only option would be going to Italy with Napoli. And finally, Ginny Esther says, would you take Nick? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no world I take Jackson from Chelsea. Absolutely not. Listen, guys, we've come to the end of the hour. That's gone really quick. Before I close this, just want to say a massive thank you to the OGs again being in the chat with the comments, the Newcastle Collective coming in, as always, with their support. And also thank you to you, Wolfie. Like I've said on this show before, you've been a big part of supporting me in getting this started. In fact, actually, there was a couple of WhatsApp messages that had to make me relook at a couple of things, but they have been very helpful. Where can we find you, Wolfie?
As far as Fan TV, I'm doing all the Forest talk, and yeah, hopefully more invites on here as well, maybe.
Of course, mate. Always welcome. Guys, we're going to wrap it there. Tomorrow night, we'll be back at 9 p.m. as always. Other than that, guys, make sure you have a cracking end to your Sunday. And this is me saying, Dan United. Ooh!